For my 31st birthday, my mother-in-law handed me divorce papers. She announced it to everyone at the restaurant while my husband filmed my reaction for laughs. I simply thanked her, signed on the spot, and walked away. None of them knew what I'd already set in motion. I thought I was finally going to get the acceptance I craved, that my husband's family would finally see me as one of them. Instead, on my birthday, they handed me divorce papers, a cruel gift meant to shatter me, but which, instead, set me gloriously free. It all started just days before my 31st birthday. I came downstairs early, hoping for a quiet morning before my shift at Romano's, the Italian restaurant where I worked. But there, hunched over our kitchen table, was Margaret, my mother-in-law. Legal documents were spread everywhere, and she was marking them with a red pen, her concentration intense, almost predatory. The sound of my footsteps made her snap her head up. For a split second, I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen directed at me before, pure, undeniable satisfaction. She moved with surprising speed for a woman in her 60s, sweeping the papers into a festive, pale pink birthday envelope, decorated with silver butterflies. "Good morning, dear," she chirped, her voice dripping with an artificial sweetness that immediately put me on edge. Margaret never called me dear. She usually just referred to me as David's wife, or she. This sudden endearment felt like a test, a new form of veiled cruelty. "Just some family paperwork," she said with a strange smile, running her fingers along the envelope's edges as if admiring a masterpiece. "I picked this one specifically for you. Something special I've been working on for quite some time. David doesn't even know about it yet." Her words sparked an unexpected, foolish hope in me. In 2 years of marriage, Margaret had never shown an interest in gift-giving, let alone elaborate surprises. She was always so practical, so direct. Could this really be it? Could she finally be seeing me, accepting me? She continued, "It's something that will change everything. I've been consulting with professionals to make sure everything is handled properly. You deserve something meaningful after all this time." My heart fluttered with excitement. Maybe she'd finally recognized how hard I was trying to fit in, how much I loved David despite their constant criticism. The idea that she might be planning something special for my birthday made me feel lighter than I had in months. David came into the kitchen moments later, and I watched him and Margaret exchange a look, a silent communication that completely excluded me. When I asked if everything was all right, David just smiled, echoing his mother, "We're planning something special for your birthday." That week, Margaret's behavior became increasingly strange and pleasant. She called me twice, asking about my schedule, making sure I'd be available for dinner on my birthday. She even suggested we celebrate at Romano's, a place she'd always avoided. "It's important that we acknowledge all aspects of your life," she explained. The words sounded caring, but something in her tone still made me uneasy. Margaret didn't speak in sentimental language. Her sudden change felt calculated, not genuine. Even Emma, David's sister, started smiling mysteriously and volunteering to help with the arrangements. Emma usually avoided any family event involving me. Their enthusiasm felt suspicious, but I pushed down my doubts. I chose to believe it was acceptance. David's excitement grew throughout the week. He constantly checked his phone, responding to texts with satisfied grins. When I tried to peek, he'd playfully angle the screen away, surprise business. His secretive behavior felt loving then, not threatening. The night before my birthday, Margaret called one last time. "Wear something nice," she advised, "but nothing too formal. You'll want to be comfortable for what we have planned." Her tone carried an edge of anticipation that I mistook for excitement. I spent extra time choosing my outfit, a navy dress, professional but approachable. I wanted to look perfect for what I hoped would be our breakthrough moment as a family. That evening, David was unusually affectionate. He held me close, telling me how much he loved me, his words intense, almost like a goodbye. "Tomorrow will be a day you'll never forget," he whispered into my hair. I fell asleep feeling cherished and hopeful, completely unaware that his tenderness was actually guilt. The decorated envelope sat in Margaret's purse, waiting to deliver its devastating contents. While I dreamed of finally earning their respect, she was probably rehearsing her speech about family standards and difficult decisions. The woman who had smiled so strangely over those legal documents was counting down the hours until she could destroy me publicly. My journey to earn their approval had been long and painful. From David's cousin's graduation party, where Margaret introduced me to relatives as David's wife, she works in the service industry, to Thanksgiving, where she meticulously highlighted everyone's professional achievements while skipping over me completely. "We're hoping she'll find something more suitable soon," I overheard her tell someone. "David deserves a wife who can contribute to their social position properly." The words cut me deep, reducing my entire identity to my perceived failure. The holidays became exercises in endurance. At Christmas, Emma got a silk scarf, and I received a book titled Professional Success for Women, wrapped in newspaper. The message was clear. Everyone else got gifts. I got homework. David's birthday party, Emma's engagement party, they were all social tortures. Margaret hovered, ready to redirect conversations whenever I mentioned Romanos. David's shame became more obvious, too. He cut me off when someone asked about my job. The man who once bragged about my work ethic now treated my employment like a family secret. The worst was Easter dinner. Margaret actually interrupted me to tell her friend Carol that I was between opportunities. I excused myself to the powder room and cried, feeling completely erased from my own life story. Margaret was rewriting my identity, turning honest work into something shameful. This systematic campaign of disapproval chipped away at me. I started questioning my worth, my choices. My credit card balance grew as I tried to buy clothes to look like the professional women Margaret preferred. My self-confidence shrank. By the spring of our second year, I was a different person. The breaking point arrived like a physical blow. I was in the hallway, and I overheard Margaret on the phone with her friend Helen. "I keep praying he'll come to his senses before it's too late," she said. "He's such a good boy, and he deserves someone who can enhance his life, rather than hold him back." Standing in my own hallway, listening to my mother-in-law pray for my marriage's destruction, I finally understood. Acceptance was never going to be possible. Margaret didn't just disapprove of my job. She disapproved of my existence in David's life. The battle I'd been fighting was rigged from the beginning, designed to wear me down until I either transformed completely or disappeared entirely. The morning after hearing Margaret's devastating call, I sat at my laptop with renewed determination. If she was praying for David to leave me, I'd prove her wrong by becoming the professional woman she claimed he deserved. I created profiles on every job site I could find. My resume looked pathetic. 3 years at Romano's, a high school diploma, scattered customer service. I stared at the blank sections where college degrees and professional accomplishments should have been. Margaret's voice echoed in my head. I rewrote my job descriptions 5 times, trying to make serving tables sound like executive experience, managed multiple client relationships, coordinated complex service delivery. It felt fake, but articles promised strategic language could bridge experience gaps. Cover letters became my obsession. Each one took an hour to craft, explaining how my restaurant background had prepared me for professional challenges. The rejections started arriving within hours, seeking candidates with medical office experience, require applicants with college-level education. By the end of the first week, my inbox overflowed with polite dismissals. I wasn't qualified for anything beyond my current situation. David found me crying over my laptop one evening. "Maybe you're aiming too high too fast," he suggested, rubbing my shoulders. "There's nothing wrong with starting smaller." His words, meant to comfort, only echoed his mother's message that I should lower my expectations. My first real-world lesson in professional humiliation came at Henderson Insurance Company. Mrs. Henderson, the hiring manager, looked at my resume for exactly 30 seconds. "Your background is quite limited for this position," she said, making no effort to hide her disappointment. "We typically hire candidates with insurance experience or business degrees. What made you think you'd be qualified for account management?" My carefully prepared answers about transferable skills fell flat. She actually checked her watch while I spoke, then ended the interview 15 minutes early. "Perhaps you should consider positions more aligned with your current skill set." The drive home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. I sat in the parking lot, replaying every awkward moment, cringing at my naive optimism. Margaret's voice played in my head. Some people just aren't meant for professional environments. Community college was my next desperate strategy. I registered for Introduction to Business, Basic Accounting, and Professional Communication, paying with money I'd saved for furniture. My first night in class, I felt completely unprepared, isolated. While classmates discussed their corporate experiences and mentors, I realized how disconnected I was from the professional world. David's reaction to my college enrollment was lukewarm at best. "Are you sure this is worth the time and money?" he asked. "Maybe you should focus on finding work first." His lack of enthusiasm felt like another vote of no confidence. My performance at Romano's began declining. Late-night studying left me tired. Constant rejections made me lose my cheerful energy. Mr. Romano noticed. "You seem troubled lately, Jennifer. Is everything all right at home?" His genuine concern made me want to confess everything, but how could I explain that my husband's family was systematically destroying my confidence? Maria, our head cook, became my unofficial therapist. "Education is good," she said one day, "but don't let anyone make you ashamed of honest work." Tony, the youngest staff member, was my biggest cheerleader. "You're the smartest person here. Those companies don't know what they're missing." Their faith felt precious. The financial pressure of my improvement campaign strained our budget. David started questioning every purchase. "Maybe we should take a break from all this," he suggested after reviewing our credit card statements. "You're spending more money trying to get jobs than you'd earn." His practical observation felt like abandonment. The library became my refuge. My grades were excellent, proving I had the intelligence Margaret claimed I lacked. But academic success didn't translate to employment. The rejections continued: insufficient experience, looking for candidates with degree completion, position requires corporate background. Margaret's reaction to my grades was predictably dismissive. "Community college is a good start," she said, "though real career advancement usually requires proper university education." Even my success became evidence of my inadequacy. Summer arrived, and my determination was still intact. I tracked my applications on spreadsheets, color-coding them: green for submitted, yellow for pending, red for rejections. Within 3 weeks, my screen was overwhelmed with red cells. Pinnacle Marketing rejected me after a 45-minute drive, telling me my customer service skills were admirable, but they needed strategic thinking and analytical capabilities that come from corporate experience. They might as well have told me waitresses couldn't think properly. Margaret's weekly calls became sessions of barely concealed gloating. "How's the job search going, dear?" she'd ask with false sweetness. When I admitted to another week without responses, she'd make sympathetic sounds that felt more like celebration. "These things take patience," she'd say. "Not everyone is cut out for certain types of work." The interview at Westfield Insurance was the most humiliating. I waited 2 hours in the lobby, then Mr. Westfield called me in. "Oh, right, the restaurant girl," he said, shuffling papers. He asked me to complete a computer skills assessment with spreadsheet functions I'd never seen. My confusion was obvious. "This position requires technical competency," he explained. "Perhaps you should consider roles that better match your current skill level." The suggestion that I should stay in my lane felt like Margaret speaking through a stranger. I started editing my stories for David, removing the most humiliating details to preserve what remained of his respect for me. By autumn, I had applied to 47 different positions. The rejections were routine but still stung. Margaret's predictions seemed accurate, and the professional world appeared determined to keep me exactly where I was. Then, Monday afternoon, as I sat at the kitchen table, surrounded by the remnants of another failed week, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Telemarketer calls were so frequent, I usually ignored them, but something made me swipe to answer. Maybe I was hoping for a miracle. "Hello. Is this Jennifer?" The woman's voice was professional but warm. "This is Jessica Martinez from Grand Plaza Hotel's Human Resources Department." My heart stopped. Grand Plaza Hotel. I remembered submitting that application 6 months ago, during a particularly desperate evening. It had been one of dozens, cast into the void of online job boards with little hope. We received your application for our guest services coordinator position, Jessica continued. And I was wondering if you're still interested in discussing opportunities with our team. Her words sounded impossible. Someone was actually calling me about a job, treating my application like it had value. I sat down the shirt I'd been folding, my hands trembling. Yes, absolutely, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm very interested. Jessica's laugh was genuine. Wonderful. I have to tell you, your restaurant experience really caught our attention. We found that candidates with your background often excel in hospitality because you understand customer service from the ground up. Revolutionary. Someone was praising my waitressing experience, not apologizing for it. She explained that Grand Plaza valued service excellence through practical application. My years at Romano's weren't a liability, they were credentials. We offer comprehensive training programs for career development, she continued, including management track opportunities. Our benefits package includes health insurance, dental, retirement planning, and educational assistance. The benefits surpassed anything I'd imagined. The idea of an employer investing in my education felt foreign and wonderful. There's one more aspect that might interest you, Jessica said, her voice excited. The role includes housing in our employee residential building. It's a fully furnished apartment, utilities included, just a 5-minute walk from the hotel. I had to sit down. Free housing meant independence from David's family's constant criticism and financial pressure. 3 hours away from Margaret's disapproving presence felt like an impossible dream being offered as reality. The salary range was $42,000 to $48,000 annually. My income from Romano's barely reached $30,000. Financial independence would transform my entire life. I realize this might be a big decision since you'd be relocating, Jessica said, but we're impressed with your background and think you'd be an excellent fit. Would you be interested in scheduling a phone interview? I would love to schedule an interview, I said, my voice stronger than it had been in months. This opportunity sounds incredible. Hope bubbled up from somewhere deep inside me, replacing the constant anxiety. The irony wasn't lost on me. Margaret's birthday envelope sat somewhere in this house, filled with legal documents designed to destroy my place in this family. Meanwhile, I now possessed information that would prove every negative thing she'd ever said about my potential was completely wrong. The timing felt like cosmic justice. I wanted to call David immediately, but something held me back. This opportunity was mine alone. Discovered through my own efforts, despite his family's constant discouragement. For the first time in our marriage, I had something valuable that didn't require their approval. The job offer was vindication. Jessica Martinez had seen qualities in my application that dozens of other employers had missed or dismissed. I decided to keep the news secret until my birthday celebration. Margaret had spent 2 years trying to prove I wasn't good enough. Now I could reveal that I was not only good enough, but I was moving beyond their limited vision. The decorated envelope she prepared would pale in comparison to the real gift I'd be sharing. My phone interview with Jessica was amazing. She focused on scenarios I could answer confidently, handling difficult customers, managing multiple priorities. Your references from Romano's restaurant are glowing, she said. Mr. Romano spoke very highly of your reliability and customer relationship skills. That's exactly the foundation we build on here. Hearing that my current employer had praised me to a potential new one felt like ultimate vindication. The formal job offer arrived via email that afternoon. Guest Services Coordinator, $45,000 annually, comprehensive benefits, and employee housing included. I printed 3 copies, folding one carefully to carry in my purse like a talisman. David called Wednesday morning, excitement obvious in his voice. Mom wants to take you out for your birthday tomorrow. She suggested Romano's since you're always talking about how much you love working there. His interpretation of Margaret's choice made perfect sense. Finally, she was acknowledging my workplace. That's wonderful, I said, genuinely touched by what seemed like progress. Does this mean she's finally accepting my job? David's pause lasted just long enough to plant seeds of hope. I think she's beginning to understand what makes you happy, he said carefully. She wants this birthday to be special. His words felt like confirmation that family dynamics were shifting. Everything seemed to be aligning for a perfect celebration of new beginnings. Emma's text message that afternoon added to my excitement. Can't wait for tomorrow night. This birthday will definitely be memorable. I spent Wednesday evening planning exactly how I'd reveal my news. The job offer letter sat in my jewelry box, waiting for the perfect moment. I rehearsed different approaches in the bathroom mirror. I have some exciting news to share. 3 days ago, I received a job offer from Grand Plaza Hotel. The words felt powerful, transformative, promising to rewrite the narrative Margaret had created. I imagined her shocked expression, David's proud smile, Emma's grudging respect. Thursday morning, shopping became an adventure in self-expression. I chose a navy dress, subtle elegance, flattering without being flashy. I wanted to look like the professional woman I was about to become. At the salon, Sandra noticed my improved mood. You're glowing today. Something good must be happening in your life. Something wonderful, I confirmed. I can't talk about it yet, but tonight is going to change everything. Sandra's knowing smile made me feel like we were conspirators. Jessica's final call had confirmed, we're moving forward with the hiring process, pending your acceptance. We'd like you to start in 2 weeks. Perfect. Enough time to process, but soon enough to escape Margaret's influence. I practiced my announcement during the drive to Romano's, speaking to my reflection at red lights. The words felt foreign and exciting, like trying on clothes that were too expensive but fit perfectly. My anticipation grew as I parked outside the restaurant. Tonight, I'd be able to tell Mr. Romano about my career advancement. The secret job offer had given me armor all week. When Margaret had commented on my dead-end situation, I'd just smiled. When Emma posted about ambitious women, her passive-aggressive comments bounced off me harmlessly. David's excitement about tonight was obvious, but I knew he was excited for their surprise. The jewelry box in our bedroom held my job offer letter like a secret weapon. Tonight, that folded document would transform me from Margaret's disappointing daughter-in-law into a professional success story that exceeded their demands. The woman who'd spent a year praying for my failure was about to witness my greatest triumph. Walking toward Romano's entrance for my birthday celebration, I felt lighter than I had since our wedding day. The secret knowledge of my future gave me confidence. Margaret's decorated envelope might contain family paperwork, but my purse held the key to freedom, respect, and vindication. The bell above Romano's entrance chimed as I pushed through the familiar glass door, my family following behind me. Jennifer. Mr. Romano's voice boomed across the dining room. His weathered face broke into a genuine smile. This must be the birthday celebration you mentioned. Mr. Romano, I'd like you to meet my family, I said with pride. This is my husband, David, his mother, Margaret, and his sister, Emma. He shook their hands warmly, his enthusiasm infectious. I felt grateful that Margaret would finally see the respect and affection I'd earned here. Margaret's smile was polite but strained as she surveyed the modest dining room. The red vinyl booths, mismatched chairs, the handwritten specials board, clearly not her usual standards. But she was here, making an effort, and that felt like progress. We'll take good care of you tonight, Mr. Romano promised, leading us to our corner booth. Maria caught my eye from the kitchen and winked. Tony gave me a thumbs up. Settling in felt surreal. I'd served countless meals at this very table, but now I sat as a guest. Margaret examined the laminated menu with visible skepticism, holding it as if it might contaminate her hands. Emma scrolled through her phone, exchanging looks with David. The chicken parmesan is excellent here, I suggested, trying to bridge the gap between my two worlds. Margaret nodded politely but ordered the most expensive item, lobster ravioli, which wasn't even a signature dish. David's behavior throughout dinner struck me as nervous excitement. He kept checking his phone under the table, responding to texts with quick thumbs. Are you expecting an important call? I asked. He glanced at Margaret, receiving some silent approval. Just coordinating some surprise elements for tonight, he said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Margaret's conversation felt artificial, rehearsed. She asked questions about my community college classes with false interest, nodding along while clearly thinking about something else. Her usual criticism was absent, replaced by an odd pleasantness that should have warned me, but instead filled me with hope. "You've been working so hard to improve yourself," she said as we waited for our main courses. "It's admirable how determined you've been despite all the challenges." The words sounded supportive, but something in her tone made them feel like a setup. Emma snorted quietly, covering it with a cough. The birthday cake appeared as we finished dinner, carried by Sandra, one of the newer servers. She placed it carefully in front of me, smiling warmly as the entire restaurant began singing "Happy Birthday." Regular customers joined in, creating a chorus of genuine affection that made my heart swell. "Make a wish," David said, positioning his phone to capture the moment. I closed my eyes and wished for the courage to share my news gracefully, hoping this announcement would finally bridge the gap. The candles flickered as I blew them out. Margaret's applause was enthusiastic but hollow. She reached into her designer purse with theatrical ceremony, withdrawing the decorated envelope. "We have a special gift for you," she announced, her voice carrying clearly. "From all of us," she continued, holding the envelope high. The pink paper with silver butterflies looked festive and innocent. Other customers turned to watch, probably thinking how lucky I was. Emma's phone appeared in her hands, also positioned to record. David adjusted his angle to capture my face. Their coordination was perfect. "Open it," Margaret urged, her eyes bright with anticipation. The envelope felt heavier than expected. The paper tore easily, revealing official documents folded neatly inside. Legal letterhead caught my eye first, then formal language. "Petition for dissolution of marriage." The words hit me in bold, imposing letters. "Divorce papers. On my birthday. In front of my coworkers and regular customers." My breath caught in my throat. The decorated envelope, so innocent, was a weapon designed for maximum destruction of my dignity. The restaurant continued buzzing, but our corner booth existed in a bubble of tension. Margaret's satisfied expression confirmed it. This was no mistake. This was exactly what she'd planned. David's phone remained steady, still recording my reaction. They wanted to capture this moment of devastation, to watch it again later. My humiliation was their entertainment, carefully orchestrated. The papers felt heavy in my trembling hands. I looked up at three faces watching me with eager anticipation. Margaret's smile was triumphant. Emma's expression was gleeful. David looked nervous but excited. They turned my birthday into their victory celebration, using my own workplace as the stage for my public destruction. Time seemed to slow as I stared at those papers, processing the magnitude of what they'd planned. The cruelest blow imaginable. But instead of the devastation they expected, I felt something entirely different wash over me. Clarity. Pure, crystalline clarity about who these people really were and what this moment actually meant. Margaret's smile was radiant. Emma leaned forward, phone still recording, hungry for the breakdown they'd orchestrated. David's camera remained focused on my face, waiting for tears that would never come. Nearby diners sensed the drama unfolding. I looked down at the documents again, noting the careful preparation. Someone had hired an attorney, filed paperwork, coordinated timing to maximize my humiliation. The petition was thorough, complete, requiring only my signature. They'd even brought a pen, anticipating my compliance. "Well," Margaret prompted when my silence stretched longer than she'd expected. "Aren't you going to say something?" Her voice invited everyone to witness my reaction. The expectation was clear. I was supposed to beg, cry, or create a scene. Instead, I reached for the pen they'd provided and signed my name. My handwriting was steadier than it had been in months. The ink flowed smoothly across the signature line, marking the end of a marriage, but also the beginning of something they couldn't imagine. Margaret's triumphant expression faltered slightly as I calmly folded the papers and returned them to their decorative envelope. David's phone wavered. "That's it?" he asked, his voice barely audible. "You're not going to fight this or ask questions?" His disappointment was palpable. My calm acceptance wasn't providing the entertainment value they'd anticipated. "Thank you," I said, standing up from the booth with my dignity intact. "This is actually the most generous gift you could have given me." Margaret's face shifted from satisfaction to bewilderment as I reached into my purse and withdrew my own envelope, the official job offer letter from Grand Plaza Hotel. I have some news to share as well, I announced, my voice carrying clearly through the hushed restaurant. 3 days ago, I was offered a position as guest services coordinator at Grand Plaza Hotel. The salary is $45,000 annually, with full benefits and housing included. The words felt powerful, each one landing with precision in the silence that followed. Margaret's mouth opened slightly, but no sound emerged. Emma's phone slipped, but she recovered, continuing to record, though her expression had shifted from gleeful anticipation to stunned disbelief. David's camera captured his own shocked face as he forgot to keep filming mine. The position starts in 2 weeks, I continued, savoring their attention for reasons completely different from what they'd planned. It's in another city, about 3 hours from here. A fresh start with people who value restaurant experience and customer service skills. Each detail was a small victory over their months of criticism. The restaurant erupted. Mr. Romano's voice boomed. Jennifer, that's wonderful news. Maria's face appeared in the kitchen window, her smile broad with genuine pride. You deserve this, she called out. Tony dropped his cleaning cloth and started clapping. The sound of applause filled Romano's as my coworkers celebrated news that transformed their colleagues' humiliation into triumph. Regular customers, who'd watched me work through difficult months, stood up, adding their voices to the celebration. Mrs. Patterson, who'd witnessed my declining mood, raised her water glass. To Jennifer and her bright future, she declared. The restaurant became a community rallying around someone they'd watched struggle, their genuine joy drowning out the family who'd tried to destroy me. Margaret's face cycled through emotions I'd never seen before. Confusion gave way to disbelief, then something that looked disturbingly like fear. She'd expected to deliver a devastating blow, not hand freedom to someone who had already secured her independence. Her carefully planned moment of triumph was collapsing into public embarrassment. You knew about this job when you signed those papers? David asked, his voice strained. His phone hung forgotten in his lap as he processed that his wife had just accepted divorce while holding a career opportunity that exceeded every criticism his family had leveled against me. I received the offer 3 days ago, I confirmed, watching his face pale as the timeline clicked into place. The same day, you all started acting mysteriously excited about my birthday celebration. Emma's phone captured David's growing understanding that their surprise had backfired spectacularly. The irony was perfect and devastating. Margaret had handed me divorce papers, expecting to break me, but she'd actually freed me to pursue the professional respect she'd always claimed I couldn't achieve. Their cruelty had eliminated the only obstacle preventing me from accepting an opportunity that would prove every negative thing they'd said about my potential was wrong. The training program includes management development, I added, pulling the official letter from my purse to show them. They specifically recruited me because of my restaurant background. Apparently, my experience here at Romano's demonstrates exactly the skills they value for advancement in hospitality management. Mr. Romano appeared beside our table, his face glowing with pride. Jennifer is one of our finest employees, he told Margaret directly. Smart, dedicated, and respected by everyone here. This hotel is lucky to have her. His words carried the weight of 3 years watching me work with integrity and skill. Margaret's silence was deafening. The woman who'd spent 2 years lecturing me about professional inadequacy now sat speechless as my coworkers celebrated an achievement that invalidated every criticism she'd made. Her decorated envelope had delivered my freedom instead of my destruction. Emma lowered her phone slowly, finally understanding that their perfectly planned ambush had become my moment of vindication. The video they'd intended to share as entertainment would now document their own failure to recognize worth that others had discovered and valued. David stared at the job offer letter like it was written in a foreign language. 2 years of supporting his mother's criticism had just cost him a wife who was walking away with professional success, financial independence, and the moral high ground he'd helped them steal from me. You planned this, Margaret finally whispered, her voice barely audible. You knew about the divorce papers. Her accusation carried no conviction, because she was beginning to understand that my calm reaction wasn't planned. It was genuine relief disguised as composure. I plan nothing, I replied, my voice steady and clear enough for nearby tables to hear. You handed me freedom I didn't even know I wanted. 3 days ago, while you were preparing those papers, I received validation that everything you've said about my limitations was wrong. The timing was perfect, almost supernatural in its irony. Emma's phone captured her mother's growing realization. Margaret had expected tears, pleas, desperate attempts. Instead, she'd handed liberation to someone already planning to leave their toxic judgment behind forever. $45,000, I repeated, letting the number sink into their consciousness. Plus benefits, housing, and career advancement opportunities. The management training program starts with my employment. Each detail was a small explosion in their narrative about my inadequacy. Mr. Romano reached our table, his weathered hands clasping mine. Jennifer, this is incredible news. Grand Plaza Hotel is getting someone special. We're going to miss you terribly, but this opportunity is exactly what you deserve. His public endorsement validated my character in front of witnesses who just observed Margaret's cruelty. Maria emerged from the kitchen, flour still dusting her apron. You're going to be amazing, she called out. Show them what Romano's girls can do when given real chances. Her pride felt maternal, protective. Tony appeared, his young face beaming. This is the best birthday surprise ever. You're going to run that whole hotel someday. His enthusiasm spread like wildfire. Regular customers approached our table. Mrs. Chin squeezed my shoulder gently. Good for you, honey. You always seemed too smart for. She paused, glancing at Margaret, for staying in one place forever. The contrast between my supporters and David's family was stark. Romano's staff and customers surrounded me with genuine affection. Meanwhile, Margaret, David, and Emma remained frozen at their table, processing how their moment of triumph had transformed into public embarrassment. When do you start? Mr. Romano asked. 2 weeks, I answered, watching Margaret's face pale further. She was beginning to understand that I'd been planning my escape while she was planning my destruction. The divorce papers she'd prepared as my ending were actually clearing the path for my new beginning. David finally found his voice, though it came out strained. You're really leaving? Just like that. His question revealed how little he understood the damage his family had inflicted. I'm really free, I corrected, emphasizing the word. Free to work where I'm valued, live where I'm respected, and build relationships with people who celebrate my success instead of planning my failure. My words were measured and calm, but they cut through the noise. Margaret attempted to regain control. This is all very sudden, dear. Perhaps you should think carefully before making such drastic decisions. The endearment sounded hollow and desperate. I've been thinking for 2 years, I replied, meeting her gaze directly. Every criticism, every comparison to David's ex-girlfriend, every suggestion that I wasn't good enough for this family, all of it led me to this moment. You were right about one thing, Margaret. I do deserve better. The restaurant's applause grew louder. Other diners had pieced together enough to understand they were witnessing someone's liberation. The beautiful thing about timing, I continued, my voice growing stronger, is that your gift of divorce papers arrived exactly when I was ready to accept freedom. I don't have to choose between my marriage and my self-respect anymore. You've made that decision beautifully simple. Emma's recording captured her family's growing discomfort as they realized their roles had reversed. They'd come as executioners, but found themselves defendants. Margaret's purse sat open beside her, the decorative envelope looking ridiculous and childish. Her weapon had become evidence of her own cruelty, preserved forever in video recordings that would tell a very different story than she'd intended. The weight of 2 years of criticism lifted from my shoulders as I prepared to leave Romano's for the final time as their victim. Every snide comment, every comparison, every suggestion that I wasn't worthy, all of it evaporated. David's attempt to process what had just happened played out across his features like a slow-motion revelation. His mother's birthday gift had just cost him a wife who was walking away with dignity, success, and freedom he'd helped them take from me. The recording in his hands would forever document his family's cruelty and his own complicity. Margaret sat motionless, her satisfied smile completely erased by the realization that her perfectly planned revenge had become my perfect escape. I walked out of Romano's restaurant that night, carrying nothing but my purse and my dignity, leaving behind a family that had just revealed their true nature to an entire room of witnesses. The cool evening air felt cleaner than it had in months. Each step toward my car marked another moment of distance from people who'd never deserved my efforts to earn their approval. The drive home was silent except for the sound of my phone buzzing with messages I didn't read. David, Margaret, and Emma were probably coordinating damage control, trying to process how their perfectly planned ambush had become my moment of triumph. Their desperate attempts to reach me felt powerless now that I held the key to my own future. 2 weeks later, I stood in the marble lobby of Grand Plaza Hotel, wearing a professional uniform that actually felt like armor. The name tag on my chest read Jennifer Walsh, Guest Services Coordinator, an elegant script that made me smile every time I caught my reflection. My maiden name had returned, along with my self-respect. My furnished apartment in the employee residential building became my sanctuary. No one criticized my choices, questioned my worth, or made me feel like an unwelcome guest in my own home. Jessica Martinez became more than my supervisor. She became a mentor who saw leadership potential Margaret had spent 2 years trying to convince me didn't exist. Your restaurant background gives you instincts other coordinators have to learn, Jessica explained during my 30-day review. You read people naturally, anticipate needs, and handle pressure without losing your composure. Those skills are exactly what luxury hospitality requires. The management training program opened doors I'd never imagined. My first promotion to Assistant Guest Services Manager came 4 months after starting, pushing my annual income above $50,000. Word of my success began filtering back. Linda, Margaret's country club friend, happened to stay at Grand Plaza Hotel. She recognized my name and specifically requested my assistance. "You're David's ex-wife, aren't you?" she asked. "Margaret mentioned you worked in hospitality, but she never said you were management at such a prestigious hotel." Her surprise was genuine. Linda's glowing review reached Margaret through their social network within days. My success was becoming impossible for Margaret to minimize or explain away. David's attempts to reconnect arrived through social media messages I never answered. His texts grew increasingly desperate, but Margaret's lessons about recognizing value only after destruction had taught me not to trust people who celebrated my perceived failures. His regret felt hollow compared to the genuine respect I'd found in my new environment. The divorce settlement proceedings worked entirely in my favor, thanks to their own documentation. David's video recording of the birthday ambush became evidence of planned emotional cruelty that his attorney couldn't explain away. No judge would award alimony or shared assets to someone who'd orchestrated public humiliation for entertainment. Margaret's legal strategy backfired as completely as her birthday surprise. The decorated envelope became Exhibit A, painting her as the architect of family dysfunction. 6 months after that night at Romano's, I was promoted again to Guest Services Manager, supervising a team of 12 coordinators. The position came with a company car, an expense account, and a salary approaching $60,000 annually. Every milestone validated Jessica's assessment and contradicted Margaret's predictions. The hotel's annual employee recognition ceremony became my moment of ultimate vindication. Standing on stage, accepting an award for exceptional customer satisfaction scores, I thought about Margaret's phone conversation where she'd prayed for David to come to his senses. Her prayers had been answered in ways she never intended. Emma's social media posts about ambitious women stopped entirely after my promotion announcements began appearing in local business publications. David's LinkedIn connection request arrived the same week as my manager promotion. His attempt to reconnect professionally felt pathetic and transparent. The man who'd recorded my expected humiliation now wanted association with my actual success. The greatest satisfaction came from living well without needing their approval. My happiness was complete and self-contained, built on genuine achievements and authentic relationships, rather than desperate attempts to earn acceptance from people incapable of recognizing worth. Margaret's judgment had become irrelevant. My new colleagues respected my opinions, valued my contributions, and trusted my leadership. The professional environment Margaret claimed I could never access had welcomed me warmly. Every day at Grand Plaza Hotel confirmed that her assessment of my potential had been completely wrong. The ultimate revenge wasn't causing them pain. It was proving their cruelty had been based on jealousy and insecurity rather than an accurate evaluation of my character or capabilities. Margaret's need to diminish me had revealed more about her limitations than mine. Her birthday gift of divorce papers had freed me to discover success that existed far beyond her narrow vision of acceptable achievement. Standing in my corner office 18 months after that night at Romano's, I looked out at the city skyline and felt grateful for every criticism that had pushed me toward independence. Margaret's decorated envelope had contained the greatest gift possible: liberation from people who'd never deserved the effort I'd spent trying to earn their love.